Chapter 5 Rulers and Buildings. Introduction. Students, this figure shows the first balcony of the Qutb Minar. Qutbuddin Aibak had this constructed around 1199. Notice the pattern created under the balcony by the small arches and geometrical designs. Can you find two bands of inscriptions under the balcony? These are in Arabic. Notice that the surface of the minar is curved and angular. Placing an inscription on such a surface required great precision. Only the most skilled craftsperson could perform this task. Remember that very few buildings were made of stone or brick 800 years ago. What would have been the impact of a building like the Qutb Minar on observers in the 13th century? Between the 8th and the 18th centuries, kings and their officers built two kinds of structures. The first were forts, palaces, and tombs, safe, protected, and grandiose places of rest in this world and the next. The second were structures meant for public activity, including temples, mosques, tanks, wells, caravanserais, and bazaars. Kings were expected to care for their subjects, and by making structures for their use and comfort, rulers hoped to win their praise. Construction activity was also carried out by others, including merchants. They built temples, mosques, and wells. However, domestic architecture, large mansions, that is, havelis of merchants, has survived only from the 18th century.
अगर आप अपने सिलेबस के सारे चैप्टर्स इस फॉर्मेट में देखना चाहते हैं तो हमें डिस्क्रिप्शन में दिए गए नंबर पर कॉल करें.
Engineering skills and construction. Monuments provide an insight into the technologies used for construction. Take something like a roof, for example. We can make this by placing wooden beams or a slab of stone across 4 walls. But the task becomes difficult if we want to make a large room with an elaborate superstructure. Superstructure means the part of a building above the ground floor. This requires more sophisticated skills. Between the 7th and 10th centuries, architects started adding more rooms, doors, and windows to buildings. Rooms, doors, and windows were still made by placing a horizontal beam across 2 vertical columns, a style of architecture called trippiate or corbelled. Between the 8th and 13th centuries, the trippiate style was used in the construction of temples, mosques, tombs, and in buildings attached to large stepped wells, that is, baulis.
अगर आप अपने सिलेबस के सारे चैप्टर्स इस फॉर्मेट में देखना चाहते हैं तो हमें डिस्क्रिप्शन में दिए गए नंबर पर कॉल करें.
Temple construction in the early 11th century. A. Kandaria Mahadev Temple. The Kandaria Mahadev Temple, dedicated to Shiva, was constructed in 999 by King Dhangadev of the Chandel dynasty. This is the plan of the temple. An ornamented gateway led to an entrance and the main hall, which was the Mahamandap, where dances were performed. The image of the chief deity was kept in the main shrine, that is Garbhagriha. This was the place for ritual worship where only the king, his immediate family, and priests gathered. The Khajuraho complex contained royal temples where commoners were not allowed entry. The temples were decorated with elaborately carved sculptures.
अगर आप अपने सिलेबस के सारे चैप्टर्स इस फॉर्मेट में देखना चाहते हैं तो हमें डिस्क्रिप्शन में दिए गए नंबर पर कॉल करें. ऐसे ही और एजुकेशनल वीडियोस देखने के लिए हमारे चैनल होम रिवाइज को सब्सक्राइब करें.